Welcome back, everyone, to version 0.2 of Town Hall. I'm your host, Alex Patterson, FusionAuth DevRel. I have a fancier title than that, but I'm forgetting it right now. We're going to dive in today and just kind of go through the news and what's happening here at FusionAuth. I'd love to hear any comments and questions as we go through those, so feel free at any point to send those out and send those my way. The first thing I kind of wanted to go through, I got a comment kind of offline about trying to find our different communities and like where to get support and things like that. If you don't know, FusionAuth has a completely free option, right? So you can host it yourself, but there's often times with that comes questions. So I want to share this first. So out here on our main site, if you go to developers and then community and forum, we have this kind of splash page here where you can go to our different API docs and things like that. But two important parts out here again that you can go to. One is ask questions. So this will jump us over to our community forum that you can get to. So fusionauth.io/community/forum. And there's all kinds of great questions out here. Now there's two cool features out here. So you can search in the normal forum up here. So if I want to do what we're talking about today, React SDK, and see, have other people had issues, what's an example, things like that, you can click on that and it'll go through the forum. The other cool part, which is a little harder to view under my head, let me go full screen here for a second. I'm missing the full screen option. Anyways, there's a Kappa AI button that you can click in the bottom right. It's tough to see down here. And you can also use our cool AI feature now as well to ask a question. So if you wanted to say like FusionAuth React SDK, you can actually just see what pops up in here too. Highly suggest this. We're going to continue training this. It's completely trained on our data, not open data. So anything that is in FusionAuth will be displayed here, including links and different areas to access. So we're continually working on that and trying to get that updated to the point where like you can pull in our Slack messages and everything else. So definitely check that out too. First thing in the news, I just want to shout out again to Hacktoberfest if you haven't tried it out yet. We've had a couple of great submissions already. These are super easy, by the way. Like if you're trying to get into Hacktoberfest and check it out, this is a great way to dive into that. So you can go to this full issue search link, and here's the 21 issues that we still have rolling around out here. Jump on one of those. They're crazy easy. Like just update a README or update the packages in NPM, whatever it might be. So check that out and get involved in Hacktoberfest. I'm already forgetting in my Asana task list all of my things I had marked off today. Let me get that going. There we go. So 1.48, release 1.48 for FusionAuth. We still have that going. That isn't quite out yet. I hear from the engineers we're getting a lot closer on that. So expect some news, if not next town hall, maybe the town hall after, but really encouraging progress on that coming forward. And let me just go back to my notes from last time. Just to review, in that 1.48, there's updates to webhooks, the admin UI, there's some improvements coming, some more security enhancements around static file access, some additional bug fixes, and performance and scaling improvements are probably going to be a big part of that list. So definitely check that out when it comes out. Okay, I'm going to pause a beat just to check and see if anyone has any questions floating around. LinkedIn, YouTube, we look like we're clear so far. Good. If you ever have a question, seriously, just jump on and I hope I'll see the comment. So first up, we want to always kind of go after what people are interested in the most. In the past 3 months, the blog post that has been hit the most is this one. It's how to use OAuth to add authentication to your React app. So this post is a little bit older, and we have a couple updates to it that came out. Our React SDK dropped, and then also our quick start tutorial has been updated. So feel free to read through this. It's got a ton of great information surrounding React, but those two items that I want to walk through are actually going to be the quick start that we'll walk through today. So, but tons and tons of great information in this article. So I'm going to click on our React SDK just to show this off for a minute. Bear with us. Again, we are just in progress of converting our entire site over to Astro. So these pages will look a little different the next time you might see them. So in our React SDK, here's how you can kind of configure that. We are going to go through this whole thing in a quick start next, though. So if you have any questions about React or the React SDK, feel free to hit me up. That is not at all what I wanted to open. All right, so here is the tutorial. So here's the tutorial link right here. I'm going to open that up. If you're ever wondering how to get to these, all of our quick starts are at Docs Quick Starts. And then you can go right down to the single page, and we're going to do the React one. So two things that you'll need for this. Docker, I highly recommend Docker Desktop if you have not used that yet. Super easy to use. You can also see the many instances of Docker that are running when you have tons of tutorials floating around like I have typically. I can go, man, I need to kill some of these things that are taking up my 9011 ports. I need to shut them down. So good stuff there. Let's get running with VS Code. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my remove directory that I probably have too much stuff in. Let's take a look here. Let's see. I think I'm going to RMRF this FusionAuth JavaScript React Web. Tried it yesterday just to make sure I wouldn't completely mess this up. And then I'm going to walk through the quick start as we get going here. So first thing to do is to clone our repo. So I'm going to just follow along the commands as they are laid out in the quick start. So here is, just make sure where I'm at. Get clone, I've CD'd into it. And now I am going to open that. I think I might have to reshare VS Code. Just one sec. So let's do this. And then give me 1 second and I'll share the right screen. I was thinking I already had done that. I wonder if that'll do that. You know, I'm going to try this. If I open a folder right now, will it actually do that? I think so. Nope, still open a new screen. Okay, hang on 1 sec, bear with me, and I'll get that going. Okay, I think we're back in action now. All right, so on this, we have our code now. Hopefully you guys can see that okay. If you can't, hit me up again in the comments. I'm wondering if I'm missing some comments. So I'm going to go open up my YouTube Studio just real quick and double check that I'm not. Okay, I think we're good. So the first thing we did was clone that. Now, the next part of this is we actually need to get our Docker instance up and running. Now, typically, when I go to run this, I usually run it docker compose -d, which is it detaches it and runs it in the background. But I kind of want to show you what this looks like without that first. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to do docker compose and up. But let me just quickly show you what it's actually going after is this Docker Compose file here. So in this Docker Compose file, let me show you around a little bit. So the first thing it has is a Postgres database that gets stood up for everything that we're going to use it in. And then the search also for FusionAuth, we're going to use that as well. And then the actual FusionAuth instance gets stood up. So all of those kind of come together in one nice Docker Compose package. We're going to stand it up, and those 3 containers, or one container with 3 services, are ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So typically I would do -D here, and you would see kind of a shortened list, but I'm going to just do up once to show you the full log of what this looks like. And the reason I'm doing that, there's also this cool feature in FusionAuth that is called a kickstart. And that's basically, you can think of it as a workflow essentially, that if you come upon a Docker Compose file and it has a quick start reference, it will call all the necessary API calls out to set up this instance of FusionAuth exactly how we want it. So I'm going to go ahead while that's running. Maybe it already finished, but while that's running, I'm going to open up this Kickstart real quick and show you all about that. So in here, we basically have a lot of different variables set up, and some of these are just kind of the basic defaults that are set. So you'll see things like this where we try to very carefully call out, you should be changing these things in production and not just using what we have in here. There are some default things though. So like a default tenant ID, you'll see these in our documentation as the actual default. Some very loose things in here that you'll also want to change if you want to set up like admin passwords and things like this. If you're doing this in a workflow, you'll want to like probably either UUID or something even more sensitive than that as far as the password goes, create those and pass them in. But the key here on what I wanted to point out is these post calls, not just post calls, these API calls coming back to our tenant. So these are doing different things. So you'll see how it generates this asymmetric key. It'll patch the system configuration here to include cores. Let's see, what else do we have? Some user registration. So it's going to register our admin user. It's also going to register our Richard user. And then there's some really cool stuff at the end here too. So you can fully create a theme within FusionAuth to match your theme of your application or your company or whatever you need that to look like when this goes into it. So that's the kickstart that will run. If we come back here, I'll show you. Let's see here. I'm guessing I did not clean this out once. So this is a good learning moment. If you stop this and you want to start all over, what you can do is do Docker Compose down -V. And the -V is going to remove the volumes. So you'll see there, it kind of cleaned everything up. So let me do up again. I just want to show you kind of this kickstart as we go through it here. Okay, right here. Nope, scrolled the wrong way. There we go. All right, so after it stood everything up, you'll see that FusionAuth started. Once that's up and going, it can accept all of these different API calls. So at the very bottom down here, you'll see that these are those calls that I just showed you in this Kickstart file. So those are all called, and once that's completely done, that's when the instance is ready to get up and running. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the back end of that really quick, just to show you like what the Kickstart actually set up. And jump over the browser. So here I'm going to go to localhost 9011. That's our default one. You'll notice right away, if you've ever tried FusionAuth before, and if I have time, I'll show you kind of a default version of this. Or actually here's sandbox.fusionauth.io. So here's kind of like a default look and feel. There's no change bank or anything up here. This is what we use for our sandbox. So here it's a little bit different, and you'll see there's some green kind of links and things like that. I'm going to click that lock button. You'll notice this is all changed. It doesn't look like this. So you can theme that exactly how you want to do it. I'm going to log in real quick just as admin@example.com, that super secure password, and just show you around for a minute. So within here, once this was stood up, we actually have our default tenant. So here's our default, and that D7 number that I was kind of calling out, that's that default tenant that comes through. There's also a default application. So our FusionAuth admin UI that you're looking at here, it actually is registered in the applications as well. So you get that as a default right there. So what we're going to be working on today is this example app. So this E9 number that we created off our Kickstart. So that's going to be all for our React app, that entire application. The users in here are admin and Richard at example.com. I think Richard Hendricks, if you want to look that one up and show me a meme or hit me up on Twitter. If you're watching this on Twitter, send out kind of who that might be. Maybe I can send some swag your way. Okay, continuing on with VS Code. So in our quick start, the next step that we have after we've kind of taken a look at all of that, now we're going to create our React application. So I'm going to create a new console window. And the next command is the npx command. So we'll go ahead and do that. So this is just creating a normal create React app. I haven't used this in quite a while since I've been using Next.js so much. It's just like streamlines things for me, but this is a basic example on the React side. So after that gets done, it's going to cd into changebank, and you'll see the new directory right here. Let me close some of this down. So you'll see this new changebank directory up here that we can get into. Here's all of the different files that were just created, and here's our source app. So if I were to npm start this and show you my browser. So here's just a normal create React app with the fun atom spinning. Looks familiar to me, this atom. All right, so that it's interesting here, which is not maintained anymore. There's so many things with create React app that are kind of going to the wayside. It's interesting. So yeah, let's continue walking down. Let me close a few other windows here. All right, so the first thing that we need to do is that FusionAuth React SDK that we were talking about. We need to add that in. So I'm going to go ahead and npm install FusionAuth and then the React SDK. We're also going to use the React router DOM or router DOM if you're in Australia. So we have that set. Now we need to add some configuration as well. So I'm going to go ahead into my source file and then create a new config.js. And the configuration in here is basically setting us up for what we need in the application to talk to FusionAuth. So in here, you'll see client ID. Client ID is the same as application in our world. So that's kind of OAuth terms versus FusionAuth terms. They're one and the same, essentially. And then the server URL is, of course, our localhost 9011. Our redirect, you could pass this in as window location since we're on the client side, but we're just going to hard code the 3000 here. The next part, so we are going to update source.index.js. We're going to wipe all of this out. You'll see a couple new additions in here. So React router DOM, of course, we have the browser router that will surround everything with that component. And then our FusionAuth provider surrounds the rest of this application. So that provider is going to allow us to log in, log out, get who is logged in, those sort of things. So you want to surround the entire app with that. Let's see here. Next, we're going to create a home page. So we're going to cheat a little bit here and copy over some assets from our complete. Every one of our Kickstarts, I should have mentioned this, has a complete application. It's up and working. You can just run with that off the bat. You don't have to copy and paste all these things, but we're just going through the full walkthrough so you can get a better understanding of it. So we're going to copy the assets and the index over. Just to show you that, here's our change bank that we just copied over. And now we're going to create a new directory for our homepage. Let's see here. My copy button is not wanting to work. Source, and then we're going to create new pages / homepage.js. So homepage is it has a few different things that are added. So you have the navigation coming from React Router DOM again. You also have this hook that's pretty nice called use FusionAuth. So this is going to tell us if it's authenticating or loading, and we can present different statuses to the user based upon that. So there's our home page. The account page is where we're going to show off the balance for our account. At ChangeBank is this fun banking system where we basically say, hey, how many dollars do you have? And we'll return to you the change in quarters, nickels, pennies, whatever it might be. So I'm going to create account page.js. Similar, you'll see the same stuff. We have the router DOM and use FusionAuth hook in here. So pretty boilerplate as we go down here. Same for our make change page. Okay. Now comes kind of some more of the authentication parts and pieces. So these are all of our pages that we created. They're pretty default. So now we're going to go and create a new directory called components in our source directory. So we have source components / logo header.js. I did that completely wrong. Let's try file. So there's our logo header. Again, we're taking a look at this hook for use FusionAuth. The great part, it's provided through that whole app again, so we can use it anywhere. The nice part here is we also have these cool like login, log out methods that are functions that we can use. So those are already pre-created. You don't have to create those. You just have to add like links or buttons so that you can call them. And then we're also going to do one of those for the menu bar. And then once we get all of that done, I'm going to open back up app.js and update this accordingly. So in app.js, we're going to pull the CSS in that we copied over. We have all of our different pages. So with the React Router, you just specify each one of these pages out as a component. And then anytime it wants to hit something else, it'll go back to that home page. And then we have our logo header and menu bar where those authentication methods were provided. And at this part, if I actually followed our quick start correctly, we can run npm run start again. Fingers crossed. And we get this nice page here. So at this point, we have a React application up and running. This is our homepage that we had created. So the cool part here, when I click login, you'll notice in the URL here has changed. So we actually went over to localhost 9011. We sent some things in. So we sent in client ID. We have this code challenge going through. There's just kind of that nice security piece that you don't even have to think about as this comes over. So again, we have that cool ChangeBank logo. Even though this is like a instance of FusionAuth, it's fully customized for our ChangeBank. So I'm going to cheat and use my password everywhere. So richard@example.com, and then I'll submit that. So now that I've logged in, if I refresh this page, right, it'll continually update my balance because it's just this random balance. I wish mine would always go up in my bank. That's just me. I don't know how you guys feel. So that balance is there. Now the cool part is we can go into our make change. I always try to do 5.22 to see if we got our rounding correct. It looks like we did. 104 nickels and 2 pennies. So this is a full app to take full dollars and change them out to nickels and pennies or coins or whatever in US dollars. One thing to note here, so currently we can get into account and make change. If I log out and I hit that same route, so I want to go to account. Yeah, it bounced me back to home. That's because it's secured the application at that point. So there are some things you always want to be careful of. Client side, you don't want to put any keys or anything like that. What's great about FusionAuth is because it's its own instance, there's not a lot of that that's occurring. The client ID that goes off is actually fired off, and when it goes over, you're just in that OAuth exchange at that point. So I could show you, let me see if I can show you a couple other things just to prove that out a little further. Go back in this mode. So I'm going to go ahead and show you on the inspection here. If I go into your application, I don't know why I have this on mobile mode. If I clear all of this, you'll start to see some things in your cookies that start to arrive. So I'm going to log in. And once I'm logged in here, you'll see that these different cookies that have come through, you'll get FusionAuth SSO, the remember device, known device, things like that start to occur. So if you want to really secure this application, you can go further steps to say, I only want known devices, or I can move into magic link and passwordless and all of those fun different authentication methods that you might want to add to these different types of applications. The other great part too is you noticed in our backend that we had a single application. We can add mobile apps. We can add anything you want, essentially. You could add another backend API endpoint you want to secure with FusionAuth. You can link all of those together for a single tenant, and then you have all of your users that are hitting that tenant across all those different application types coming to a single instance. So that creates that central identity and that access management piece that we like to get into. Yeah. Sorry, I'm reading a couple comments here. Yeah. Those are not cool to send out online, unfortunately. So I'm just going to pause a beat here and see if anyone has any questions. This is kind of our Q&A time. Ooh, I'm going to have to take a note down. I think we need a new Q&A image added. So I'll add that to my town hall notes for the marketing team out there. Huge props to the marketing team too. They've been helping me out. Hopefully with the image today, you got the good one and not the bad one. Let me see if I can show you. I don't think I can. That's okay. I was gonna show you the new image for this one. So again, any FusionAuth questions, any authentication questions you might have, I'm gonna hang out here for just a little bit. I think I have some YouTube music I could play for a minute that won't cause YouTube to freak out. So I think I can play, what's this one? Let's see. I don't know. There's some happy Halloween ones. Ooh. I'm gonna go out on LinkedIn and just double check anyone with questions out there. I'll reload the page once. It's a little too dark for my liking. All right. What is your favorite kind of candy? Great question. So the interesting part is I like no bakes. And so I know that's not a candy, but I grew up, we called them haystacks, which is incorrect. Haystacks is a different thing. So basically like quick oats, chocolate, peanut butter, they're delicious. However, if it has to be like a fully wrapped candy, Kit Kats. Kit Kats all day. I love them. But basically, if it's not sour candy, I'll do anything. Sorry, I forgot to show your comment, Dan. Thanks, Dan. Good question. I'm curious, is anyone celebrating Halloween? Are you giving out any candy this year? We haven't done it in the past years because we're always running a kid around, but we said, this year we're home. We're not even on vacation or anything. Maybe we should sit down and give out some candy. All right, folks, it's pretty quiet out there. So at this point, I'm going to say have a great weekend. I live in Michigan, big Michigan State rivalry. So I'm just going to shout out a big go blue this weekend. So we'll see if Michigan can bring it home. All right, take care, y'all. We'll see you next time.
When you build an app, writing a login, registration, and user management system seems simple. But pretty soon you're implementing complex standards like OAuth, OpenID Connect, and SAML. Plus, you'll need to build out additional login features. And don't forget all the acronyms you need to comply with. Secure Auth is not optional, but the time that it takes to build it is. Save time and use FusionAuth. FusionAuth provides authentication, authorization, and user management for any app. It's built for devs to deploy anywhere and integrate with anything in minutes. Seriously, anywhere, anything, and in minutes. FusionAuth installs on any platform, any device, anywhere in the world, including AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and other clouds. And it scales to hundreds of millions of users. To keep user data safe, FusionAuth provides all the controls you need to manage passwords and comply with security requirements and regulations. When users log in with FusionAuth, they'll see your brand, not ours. Theme login pages, style emails, and localized messages to ensure your brand is front and center. And FusionAuth comes with a pre-built management UI to manage and report on users. So stop grinding on Auth and go build something awesome. Get started using FusionAuth for free. Wait, for free? Are we sure that's supposed